We've stopped at a little town called Merton for fuel and, I guess technically it's food. Something I want to show you over here. Merton, gateway to the snowfields. Whenever a town has nothing to offer in its own right to tourists, it always becomes gateway to somewhere. Truth is, the snowfields are about another hour and a half up the highway. Coming! Why am I eating these?
Tonight we'd eat steak. Tomorrow, hopefully, it would be fish. The wine is from a vineyard in the next valley, owned by the same family Fred Fry built this hut for 50-odd years ago, the Richies. Now, Tom and I made a pact some years ago that when camping we would not do one thing, recite bush poetry. No matter how long the silences, they're not allowed to be broken by anything resembling Banjo Paterson. It takes a lot of self-control. Pretty soon, though, you need a beer. We turn to nature's refrigerator.
We'd caught the fish and it was time to start cooking. Marika had kept the recipe simple. Chopped ginger, lemon, cracked pepper, the fish to be wrapped in paper bark and tied at each end. Then it was just a matter of throwing them onto the hot coals. Now, a lot of people subscribe to the theory, if it's comfortable, it isn't camping. It's not a theory we subscribe to.
There's something really special about hiking into the bush and catching your own dinner. You just know it's going to taste good.
We'd fished a magnificent stretch of water and could easily do it again tomorrow.
You see, on the outskirts of Tain is one of the original Scotch whisky distilleries, Glenmorangie.
Now, the whole Scotch whisky thing is a bit of a cliche, and there's a natural suspicion with cliches. You think, yeah, Scotch, probably manufactured by scientists in a converted warehouse in Liverpool. But Glenmorangie is the genuine article.
I guess when you think about the cliches of Scotland, like bagpipes or kilts or something, you've got to add Scotch whisky. But Scotch whisky, in its true form, is a far more fascinating and complex thing than that. And it deserves a lot more credit. I'll show you why. This is the engine room with the big copper stills. They boil out or distill all the spirits and flavours to produce the enormously rich single malt Scotch. Now, the different regions of Scotland produce vastly different flavoured whiskies, depending on the malt or the peat or the water or the wood you use. They say you can't even get two stills to produce the same flavour. So you'd think the whisky we commonly drink would be enormously varied too. Well, there's only one problem. Unfortunately, when Scotch became a big international drink, they started blending, getting barrels of different malts and basically making it a blend of flavour for overseas tastes, which is a real pity. Fortunately, this place doesn't do that. They're all single malts and you should try them because Scotch, as a single malt, is as varied a drink as you'll find anywhere in the world.
Glenmorangie was founded in 1843, which coincidentally was the year I think this roll was baked. I'm afraid Scotland is not one of the great centres of haute cuisine, but they make some sensational whiskies. And people actually come to Scotland just to sample the whiskies. There's a thing called the Whisky Trail you can do. You go from distillery to distillery. It starts down south of Edinburgh. You come up through Inverness. And I don't think anyone remembers what happens after that, but well worth doing. There were a few extra guests staying at the Altnahara Hotel that night, and one of them had actually caught a salmon. Goodness knows how, we suspect explosives may have been involved. At any rate, our modest sea trout was relegated to entree status. Main course was to be salmon.
And Tusha was our chef, and this being Scotland, nothing was wasted. The fish guts, head and skin were all put in a bowl and turned into haggis, black pudding or some sort of Highland snack food. But the salmon, a beautiful, almost incandescent orange, was reserved for us. Oh, one more for the haggis bowl.
You don't need to go overboard when cooking salmon if it's fresh. Basic touches, lemon, pepper, a very light sauce. Rotorua Lodge's resident chef Frank Morrison was standing by. Having previously owned a Thai restaurant, he was not afraid to give our fish flavour.
After scoring the trout, his recipe involved a marinade of coconut milk, cucumber, lime juice, chilli, olives and mint. Like we said, not afraid of flavour. You can baste the fish for several hours in this, before wrapping it in foil with a little lime and olive oil and baking it whole.
Trout can sometimes taste plain, but with the flavours of Frank's recipe, accompanied by a local hunter's Chardonnay, it tasted superb.
It capped off a very special day and we were happy to return home tomorrow.
We were heading for El Cuestro's main homestead. Just a little shack on the river, really. A couple named Will Burrell and Celia Shelmerdine built this place a few years ago, and it's made this part of the Kimberley a whole lot more accessible. Now you can come to this area on any budget. Sleep by the airstrip, or if you've got a bit of slack on the old credit card, spend a few nights here.
We'd done the catching and El Cuestro's chef, Tanya Cole, agreed to do the cooking. After cleaning the fish, he stripped a couple of big fillets off. That's one of the good things about Barra. Even a small one like this gives you a couple of decent fish steaks. Then a sauce of lemon juice, white wine and cream, with half your yearly requirements of cholesterol thrown in, followed by fresh dill.
It was a brilliant way to end a trip, having dinner up at the El Cuestro homestead with the people who run the place. And the barramundi lived up to its reputation as one of the best eating fish around.
That's Dave Fennick, the bloke who lent us his Jeep. He's smiling now. Mind you, we haven't told him we left it sitting at a waterhole about 20 miles from here.
One of the great things about any travel is talking to people who've spent a fair bit of time in the place you're exploring. You pick up all sorts of information. You see, Michael, who runs El Cuestro, told us if you keep going up over the plateau, there's another river with this absolutely stunning gorge where no one goes. And again, there's always a river somewhere.
After a long, lukewarm shower and a couple of power failures, it was time to eat. We'd arranged for a friend of Alessandro's called Maurizio to cook our fish. Maurizio's actually Italian. I think they met on the set of The Bold and the Beautiful. And apparently he's a pretty good cook.
A big fish like a mackerel makes excellent steaks. You've just got to get through the bone. Fortunately, Maurizio used to be a chiropractor. Each piece was coated in a simple batter of egg and flour. And then, for that distinctly Italian touch, deep fried in olive oil.
And the result? Well, it has to be said, mackerel is not really rated as the ultimate seafood experience. It's more the sort of fish you associate with cans, bearing the phrase pet food only. But you've got to hand it to Maurizio, it tasted pretty good.
The company was good too. That's Maurizio's wife. She and her friends fled to this island several years ago after Venezuela introduced conscription for all potential Miss World contestants. Maurizio spoke Italian, which his wife would translate into Spanish, and then Alessandro translated for us into English. Simple requests like pass the salt could take up to an hour.
During the meal, Alessandro told us something really interesting. About 4 hours sailing due west of Los Roques is a place called Aves Island. Pretty much uninhabited and surrounded by reefs, he reckons it has some of the best bone fishing in the world. The sort of place you just have to check out one day. And I think we'll try and make it there too. But when you think about it, there's always a reef, or an island, or a river, somewhere.
Cafe Torino's turned making coffee into an art form. Try doing that with Nescafe.
They've even found an elegant way to pour a glass of water. Quite an achievement, that one. It's the sort of place they shoot films with Marcello Mastroianni. In fact, he was here a couple of weeks ago, or so they told us. Anyway, it was a chance to relax, have a cappuccino, and work out where we were going.
The lady back at the cafe told us that way up in the valley was a simple little shop selling the locally made cheese, Fontina. It's a nice, basic, balanced cheese, but more interesting than that, those cows we passed earlier were hers. This was their cheese.
Cows. They were her moo cows, Tom.
Tell them we ran over one.
Tutti moo cow bene. I told them they're all well. Posso avere...
I let Rob handle most of the ordering. I think when you're not fluent in a language, it can be dangerous. I actually know a guy at home who went into an Italian delicatessen and ordered a loaf of olive fellatio. We're a long way from home. You don't want mistakes like that. This is Gina. Not really, but we started calling her Gina Lollobrigida and the name sort of stuck. She's Nonna, the matriarch of the family who agreed to cook our fish. We didn't let on how we got them. She grows all these herbs and vegetables herself.
Now, if you like fish, take note of what she does, because I reckon it produced probably the best tasting trout meal I've had. She cut the spines out to create small fillets, flattened them out, and then dipped them in egg and then flour, a very simple way of lightly battering the fish. She then fried them in olive oil, Italian of course, and then placed them in a bowl. Then she fried celery, onion, carrot in the same oil, and added a full bottle of white wine vinegar and brought it to the boil. Then it was time to remove it and pour it over the fish as a drenching marinade. Now you're supposed to leave that in a cool cupboard or cellar overnight, and voila, pickled trout.
There's an old Italian saying, the superfluous things are often the most important. Well, let's just say they cooked to a superfluous excess. There was some more fish, oven baked in foil, porcini mushrooms, Valdeostan style, tomatoes, garlic, parsley and oil, insalata mista, potatoes, polenta, and the local Fontina cheese. Not to mention the locally produced wine. Not a bad drop, that.
Yeah, it was quite a meal. Pity about the setting. We ate a third of the meal and understood a third of the conversation, but they didn't seem to mind.
Although Rob's impersonations of the Italian soccer team didn't seem to go over that well.
Yeah, I don't think he got them. It was the sort of hospitality that's supposed to have died out, but we found it everywhere in this large valley. And they even let us in on a secret. You see, if you keep going up over the mountains, there's a secluded little valley where no one goes. And that valley has a beautiful river too. But then, there's always a river somewhere.